yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Beat in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then taste it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. Thanks for their disease. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. It's time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want retribution. Let's go light up the darkness. Make true of an empty promise. Flip cards into weak and harmless. Take to the streets and turn them to a mosh pit. 'Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.
Hey, ADRL Nation. Welcome to YouTube.
Welcome to YouTube.
Yeah,
If you haven't been here before.
yeah, because that's where ADRL is hanging out, and that's where Adrenaline will be forevermore. So if you haven't already liked and subscribed and done all the things that you do at ADRL Tour on YouTube, if you're here already, obviously you have and you know what you're doing, but please click the like and subscribe button, share it, do all those things. This is the big head Kenny Nowling. That is
Dr. Fears.
And you're watching Adrenaline, the podcast presented by Fatheads and fatheadseyewear.com, the official sunglass of the American Drag Racing League. Official sunglasses of the Big Head, the official sunglasses of Adrenaline, the podcast. That's why they're our presenting sponsor, and we can't thank Rico enough. You want to get your hands on some, go to fatheadseyewear.com, fatheadseyewear.com, and get your hands on some. Man, am I excited about tonight's guest. I know I say that every week, and people are like, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just like, you know, some people send messages, you know, why do you play the national anthem before a podcast? I don't understand. Because the national anthem should be played before every major event. And every episode of Adrenaline, the podcast, is a major event.
That's right.
Obviously. So just to answer anybody's question, why
the hell not?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I know. People are just, you know, we went through that.
Lord, what's happening?
It is what it is. So before we bring in tonight's guest, aka the GOAT, want to let everybody know Sunday, August 6th at Chuck-a-Burger, Ron Stilley's little slice of paradise over there, the first curb service restaurant right here in St. Louis, Missouri.
It's been there
St.
for a while.
Charles Rock Road, cruising since 1957. I've had lunch there twice this week. I'm not going to lie. It's the only way I can break my diet. Now, one of the trips was purposeful. One of the trips was accidental. On the purposeful trip, I was going to have some Chuck-a-Burger chili, triple chuck with cheese, and a root beer that's about yay big. And if you go to their Facebook page, Chuck-a-Burger's Facebook page, they got the menu there. Everything on there I've had at least a dozen times, even though I am getting a little looser in the shirt.
You are. Congratulations.
Still a long way to
good,
go.
brother.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with Clyde Scott and Hank Stubbs and everybody else, But Ron Stilley serves up the best food in St. Louis. They were one of St. Louis's top 50 businesses back in when they had the big birthday cake that was going around.
Oh, yeah.
Chuck-a-Burger got one of those, and
Oh,
deservedly
good
so. So St. Charles Rock Road, visit them on their Facebook page. You can also go to chuckaburger.com, but it's going to direct you to the Facebook page. So,
So when you're in St. Louis, for whatever reason, make sure you go.
yeah, tell them the Big Head and Dr. Fierce sent you, and they might give you, 5 cents off a root beer or something. So they are having a big birthday bash for the proprietor, the owner.
Yep.
His father founded it back in the day. Ron Stilley, not sure how young. Ron's a good-looking, young, fit guy, but I think he's like in his 60s, which is shocking to me. I thought he was closer to my age, but come to find out he's not. August the 6th, Sunday, August 6th, going to have a big cruise in. Maybe the Cutlass will be ready by then.
I hope so. Boy, that new fabricated rear end's pretty nice.
I
Looking
know.
forward to it. A little Bickle work on that rear end being done.
Jerry Bickle Race Cars redoing the rear end through Kevin, our buddy at Image Auto Styling in Lake St. Louis.
Yes, sir.
So can never forget to mention that.
So
So
he does great work.
I don't see our guest in the green room yet. So I got a quick question for you, Dr.
Yes,
Pierce.
yes.
We
Hopefully have an answer.
we have this very popular new segment. We've been getting lots of messages about it. In the Groove with Dr. Fierce.
Yes.
What gets you in the groove?
Yeah, what gets you there?
Before I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Right now tonight, what were you listening to get you in the groove before we came on Adrenaline the podcast?
I was listening to Divine Intervention album by Slayer.
You had a Slayer t-shirt on today too. So.
I did. I love Slayer.
Yeah.
Nothing gets me going.
I was listening to a little
Better than
Sinead
some
O'Connor just out of respect. Nothing compares to you.
That's cute.
I was donating that or dedicating
Is that too
that
soon?
to you. Is that too soon?
I don't think so.
I mean, she's dead. It's okay.
Yeah, it's kind of
It's
the
going
right
to happen
time.
to all of us. I mean,
Yeah, right.
there's a right time to pay homage and to, listen to Sinead O'Connor for the first time. And
As Dixon said, who's going to throw tampons at the Pope now?
thank you.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's a huge loss.
Yeah, it is. It is. And but I'll tell you what, I will say this. She pulled off the bald head.
Back in the day, as
I
a
just-
younger guy, I thought she was cute. She was kind of high, that Irish accent, shaved
I
head.
mean, she was no G.I. Jane, but she pulled it off.
Yeah.
She pulled it off. So
No, yeah, that's right.
of a similar genre, how many people now know who Tracy Chapman is because of the Luke Combs remake of her hit long ago, Fast Car?
Yeah.
Nobody knew who Tracy Chapman was. She's been living in obscurity wherever. And
Well,
now
what's
she's
interesting
like,
is she was in obscurity when she actually became famous from that song.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was doing a concert and the headliner didn't show up. So she had to fill back in. They asked her to come back to stage. And so she played a song that she wrote, and it just happened to be that song. And boom, famous.
boom, there it is.
Bam.
So
back to drag racing.
producer Adam,
Yes, sir.
you may want to take the Big Head's phone that has been stripped away from me. I'm not allowed to have it on the set anymore. You may want to take that and never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we're
Look
okay.
at him, Tricky Ricky driving out of the mountains. So did I give away the hook? No, anyway.
I don't think so.
Listen. Tricky Ricky Smith, and that term, the GOAT, gets thrown around a lot. And we'll talk about this when he comes on, but he's the GOAT of door slammer drag racing, period. 11 world championships across every sanctioning body. There's nothing that he hasn't accomplished in his long and storied career. 50 years racing this year. And 42 of those years, 42 or 43, he's been making a living doing it.
That's crazy. He's been racing longer than I've been alive.
He has.
That's bitching.
So I know him and his beautiful wife, Nancy, are going to have dinner as soon as we're done. So with that, let's get to this week's interview presented by BetterOfficeFurniture.com. Our good friend Selena Mikos, providing all the beautiful furniture here at the ADRL World Headquarters and the Adrenaline, the podcast studios. Always appreciate Selena and her crew. If you want anything, including a table that looks just like this, you can get it at BetterOfficeFurniture.com. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Adrenaline and 11-time door slammer world champion, Tricky Ricky Smith. There he is.
What's
Look
up,
at
big
him.
dog?
Look at him. The guy doesn't look a day over 50. You know, if you shave the beard, Tricky, you'd probably look 45. I mean, you're in good shape for a guy that's I'm not going to even guess how old you are, but can you hear us okay on your end, Tricky? Are we having technical difficulties? He was in the mountains, by the way. He's a mountain man. He spends a lot of time in the mountains.
What's up?
Oh, there he is.
There he is. How's your service, Tricky? Are you are you feeling good about where you at? Do you need to move to a different location?
Yeah.
That was, I'm
That
comfortable
might
with
be the
where I'm
answer.
at, or I need to move to a different location.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
That's okay.
No, I've waited
be
my
back.
whole life to interview Ricky Smith, my entire life. Actually, I had the pleasure back in the AMS Pro Mod Challenge days when I was doing the color commentating and pit reporting alongside the legendary Ted Jones and, of course, Brett Kepner in the pits. I was able to interview Ricky a few times, highlighted my career. He was one of my first clients with Nowling Motorsports Management, and unfortunately, and he was straight up is only Tricky Ricky. I mean, a lot of people are, but Tricky Ricky specifically, straight up dude.
Yeah.
He's like, I lost track of time. We're barreling down the mountain to get to where I've got good service, which is interesting because you think when you're in a mountain, thank you. I got my phone back. Huh. I
got
call
my
Tricky
phone
Ricky
back, and you don't got
maybe he
one.
wants to come in
Eddie Murphy
a little
reference.
bit, a little bit later in the show. We don't want to do that. We want to do that. So anyway, Dr. Fears.
Yes, sir.
It's hot in St. Louis. It's hot everywhere.
It's hot everywhere, and those poor folks
wanna
down
state the
south, man.
obvious.
I mean, we've only had a couple days of 100 plus here. What they've been going on 2 weeks of 110
Hey, buddy.
down south.
Yeah, 110,
Your service a
114.
little bit
That's
out of whack.
wild.
Yeah, totally crazy. So, it's not too bad here. Clearly, the AC
Are you
at the world headquarters
restaurant? 'Cause you might be
can't
able to
hack it
go
either.
in.
It is
So,
lacking,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's trying.
but that's okay because, we got fans, and we improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's what we do.
That's all we can do.
That's right.
You got it,
when
brother.
And they're right,
faced with those
Dixon.
Situations. He's shaking his head. Yes.
Yes, it is.
In agreement. The microphone doesn't stretch that far. We'll get a better sound.
Yeah, I wonder, people are probably wondering who Dixon is. I think that's maybe the third time that I've made a reference
At
to
least the
Dixon.
second. At least the second.
You're talking about the legendary Chris Dixon, who
Absolutely.
of tactical shit fame, and
Yes.
yes, for all the tactical shitheads out there, they know who Chris Dixon is.
They sure
Tricky
do.
Ricky Smith is driving a little bit further away, only in the Carolinas or up in West Virginia and stuff, and I guess maybe out west too. But wouldn't you love to be somewhere right now where you would say the words, "I just need to drive a little further away from the mountain to get a little better service"?
Just stop
Yeah.
back in the green room.
There he is.
back
Oh,
on
looks
in.
pretty good.
Yeah,
There you
now he's
are.
there. There he is. Ladies
are
and
you?
gentlemen, 11-time world champion Tricky Ricky Smith. Welcome to Adrenaline, brother.
How are you, sir?
Good. Just technology, I'm on the road trying to use this phone, and I lost you there for a little bit.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We know you and Miss Nancy are headed to dinner, so we won't keep you long. Obviously, let's just jump right into it. First of all, the entire world wants to know, and I know you're not sure on which hot rod yet, but especially your home state of North Carolina, as a former ADR world champion, are we going to see Tricky Ricky Smith in Pro Nitrous at Dragstock?
Absolutely. We're coming. I don't know if I'm bringing my car or I'm bringing Steve Vick's car. It'd be one of the two cars, and but we're coming down to run the deal.
Yeah, buddy.
Well, you bring an army of people every time you do, regardless of where you are in the country. One of the most recognizable figures in Door Slammer Drag Racing, but you stepped out of your comfort zone a little bit last Friday night and jumped into Scott Palmer's Top Fuel car, which immediately makes you grin ear to ear. First of all, phenomenal job. I wasn't surprised at all. And anybody that knows you, I don't think they were very surprised that you took it as far as you did. You and I spoke earlier in the day before you made the run, and you had mentioned you'd take it all the way, but you thought NHRA might get a little pissed off since you were earning, your license, even though you've driven 200. Listen, as Warren Johnson once said in Pomona, and I'm not getting on the fuel guys. I love him, especially Palmer. He's one of the best guys on the planet. I love him, the people's champ. But I remember Warren Johnson being quoted after they were having track prep issues when they put the fuel cars to 1,000 feet and I guess basically quit prepping that extra 320 feet. Warren Johnson said, if I remember this right, a monkey could drive one of those things. How close to right was he? I mean, you jumped in there. It's your first time out, and you were going right down Broadway. If you hadn't clicked it off, you were going to the scoreboards.
Yeah, I fought a monkey.
I know you did. I was saving that for later, but we'll get to you fighting the monkey.
He fought a monkey
because it actually happened. But so when you you go through the procedure and everything, and obviously you and Scott got to know each other over the winter when you went down and kind of helped get his pro mod car set up. When you hit that pedal, the feeling, the difference between that and your pro mod or pro nitrous car, what's the first thing that you noticed?
Just the loudness and the vibration, was a whole lot more than my car. And I knew I was getting away from here quicker, but it done just what they said. I was okay probably that first 100 feet. And then when those clutches start coming in and that thing kind of reared up, and it's kind of a feeling in it that you're sitting so far down low in it that, when it started doing it, it felt like it was going to start picking the front end up. Well, probably what it done, I felt, you see those cars sometimes bow in the middle. And it wasn't long after that, my head hit the back of the cage, and it got to shaking my head like a paint checker would do, I guess, and everything kind of went blurry. And it wasn't long after that, I said, it was getting dark. It was real dark, and the track was lit up good, but, that thing's moving so fast, I didn't want it to get in front of me too far, and then I'm not going to do something stupid. I drove a long time, and I realized, not to drive over my head, and Scott it was a very good honor for him to put me in his car like that, and take a chance on me, tearing up something. And so I wasn't about to drive over my head in the thing. So once it kind of started doing that, I kind of shut her down, and I think we got a good 400 feet, which was 300 to 400 feet is all I wanted to go anyway. So kind of glad it did. Like you say, I didn't go too far, get, NHRA or anybody, pissed off at me saying, you shouldn't have went that far. So I think everything went really great. I was real comfortable as far as once the car fired up, I done my burnout. I kind of got more and more comfortable just realizing the noise, and the car went in and out of gear real good. I had to let it roll a little bit out there when I stopped, but I'm used to Linkos and stuff like that, the way they go in and out of gear. You got to let the car roll. So I was used to all of that. So everything went really, really, really good, I thought, as far as my part, me not screwing something up. And then Scott and them, they had the pressure on them of trying to get this thing down the racetrack,
Absolutely.
They went up there the first run. When you go to one of those PDL tracks, it's glued up so much tighter than a NHRA track, and we were running at 10 o'clock at night. So he went out and made a checkout pass earlier, and that's kind of what happened to him. The car didn't have enough power, and it kind of stopped the tire and just blew it off. And they come back and fed it. They give me some power, even though they loosened up the clutch. They really got after it pretty good, and it didn't do anything stupid. It made a nice run. I had the car lined up straight. it was making a nice run. I mean, like I say, it wouldn't have been a bit of problem taking it to the 8th at all if I'd have just not got my head back there, But we learned what I got to do. I got to get the chin strap tighter. So all that was really good, and everything was great, man. I mean, Courtney told me that Flo just was outstanding. The viewership that they had on that deal was overwhelming, I think, of what they thought was going to happen. So it just tickles me that, like I told Scott today, actually, we talked about something, and I said, Scott, with all that viewing recognition and all this that we got, it's pretty funny that 2 old men out here got a lot of people to watch us, and it's an honor for something like that to happen at my age and Scott's age to get our, I guess you would say, our racing mates
Right.
to watch what we done, and it's awesome. It's a big family out here, and that's what you got to realize. The racing community is a big family.
Is that one of the reasons, Ricky? I can kind of hear it in your voice. Is that one of the reasons it's been so hard for you to walk away from drag racing? I know you were one of the first clients I ever had with Nowling Motorsports Management. I'll never forget the first, the Lucas Oil deal, the first big deal that we got together, and then, others to follow that. But you're kind of like Tom Brady. You've been talking about retiring forever. Is the racing community and that family, that extended family? You obviously have a beautiful family. Your son, Matt, has been very successful in his own right in NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle, multi-time national event winner, multi-time world champion. Of course, your daughter, Amanda, has done incredibly well. Her husband, for those of you that don't know, has got the coolest name in racing. I mean, if you're going to be a race car driver, Scott Speed's a pretty cool name to have. And then Melissa Schweitzer, of course, married to Brandon.
Yeah.
So your immediate family, and then your beautiful wife, Nancy. Has that been tough for you in making this decision of when to step away? Is the extended family part of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Kenny, I've been doing this basically. I didn't realize it, but I started racing when I got out of school, at Farmington and places like that in East Bend. So that was basically 1973. I graduated in 72. I've been what you call racing since 73. So that's 50 years I've actually been at this. I didn't realize this till a month or two ago. You can say I've been trying to race for 50 years. I've been doing it for a living for 41. And, I don't know anybody. No, and I go in places and eat. A lot of older people, ask me, man, I don't see you on TV. What are you doing? I have to explain to them about the pro mod situation and all that. But
right.
It's, just everybody that I know, that just like my wife, I try to go with her to parties at Christmas, and I've got a little better at it, but I don't know. I can't talk doctor stuff,
right?
And I don't have anybody to talk racing to, so I kind of feel like an outcast almost. But this whether you argue, or whether you have a few enemies, or whether somebody don't like you, driving or racing against you or whatever, when it all comes down to it, we're all still family, and we all still realize that out there. And that's hard to give up, and what am I going to do? That's what I keep thinking about. And, you got to got a lot of stuff to get rid of, and you got to do that business wise. You got to figure out the best time to do it. And so it's pretty much going to happen here at the end of the year. I think I've got deposits on stuff, and I think I'm going to try to make it happen the best I can. And now that I got Vic has a car, and I'll probably drive in a little bit, and I got some other people talking, and so I can probably get it 4, 5, 6, 7 times driving next year and get all I want out of my system, and help other people and drive for them. So I think everything's working out in a good way that I can roll out and not be too miserable.
So for those of you that are just tuning in, we are live with 11-time world champion Tricky Ricky Smith, who's done everything you can possibly do and accomplish everything you can possibly accomplish on the drag strip. And That's not his most legendary story. He touched on it a few minutes ago, and nobody tells a story better than you, Tricky. So I'm just going to give you the floor. And can you introduce ADRL Nation and everybody tuning in, watching Adrenaline, either live or after the fact, going back and rewatching it? You fought a monkey. How many people can say they actually fought a monkey? Please tell the story as only Tricky Ricky can from start to finish. The show is yours.
Yeah, I've been in a few little fights, off and on, and probably all of us were monkeys at one time, I guess. But that monkey was something else. Now he was short, and he went from one side of the cage to the other, and he'd push off. And I got him down here. I was a wrestler in school, so I finally got a hold of him and I was gonna throw him on the floor. And as I got him out and was throwing him on the floor, he hit the floor, and the next thing I hit the floor. Well, the monkey was gone. I mean, he was that quick. Time I tried to go down with him, he was out from under me, and I was on the floor. Well, that really pissed him off, and he started going back and forth on the cage. So I bent down and got acting like a monkey, and I was going back and forth on the cage with him. And basically, all I kind of remember there after that was he would grab both bars, the bars. Was in a trailer that had, like, he was in a jail. It had cell bars on each side. And he would go to them bars, and he'd take his foot in his hands, and he'd grab them, and he'd push off, and he'd go the other way. Well, I'm going back and forth that with him, and about the third or fourth time we done that, he grabbed them bars, and the last thing I kind of remember him doing is I saw his hands and feet. Everything went together at one time, and he just caught me right on the chin and knocked me completely back at the cage. And I think I played football. I've been hit hard. I've been knocked out in football as far as crazy, and they had to take me out. I didn't even know where I was at till the next day. But that's the first time I actually remember seeing stars. I saw stars twinkling in front of me, and I thought, man, oh me. And luckily, I was going back after him, but luckily the guy come in the cage and pulled me back because it's a miracle that he didn't hit me hard enough to knock my teeth out. He cracked my jaw, but he didn't knock my teeth out, and I guess that was a good thing.
Oh man,
How did you end up in the cage with a monkey? Just out of curiosity.
They have this King Fair. It's the Stokes County Fair there in King, a town I live in now. My wife was born in, and they had this fair that come around all the time. A little small fair where they had this thing, and he come around for 2 or 3 years. And I was a junior, and then and then I was a sophomore. I was a junior, and everybody, I was kind of the bully in school, and everybody kept after me. You need to fight that monkey. Now I watched guys get in there back in with 25, 35 years old, but every time they got in there, they were drunk, and he just beat the shit out of them, So I said, I can beat that thing, So my senior year, everybody got on me and said, now you've talked to us so long, we're out of school after this year, you got to do that. So I let my high school teammates, I guess, talk me into doing it.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I've been peer pressured into doing a lot of things. Fighting a monkey is not one of them.
No, man.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
with drag stock coming up and the level of competition, as you know, in Pro Nitrous right now is from top to bottom, and guys that ran ADRL for years and guys that I've heard from that are coming, including yourself. I mean, it's going to be a who's who of drag racers. Given the fact that this may be your last full year driving, how special would it be to you, especially in your home state? Rockingham is pretty much your home track. It's your home away from home. King's not far from Rockingham. How special would it be for you to win an ADRL Minuteman at drag stock, our 20th year of doing it? I can't believe it's been 20 years since the first one, but you've raced at many of them. How special would it be for you to take the Minuteman home?
Well, it'll be awesome for sure. I mean, I've always been a pretty fierce competitor and do what I got to do to win, whether you like me or not. And I come to these tracks to win races, and I've been accused a lot over my younger career not talking to people or to fans sometimes, but I think in the last several years, more and more the fans have realized that, I'm not the guy that gets to go sit in the lounge and have a Coke or, a Mountain Dew or something and come out and sign autographs. if I don't work on that car and make my calls and I do my own tuning, if I don't do that, then they're not going to get to see me race next round. So it ain't that I don't want to do it. The people that really get to hang around me some afterwards and this and that, hey, I love to have a good time with anybody. I like to drink a beer. I like to do stuff like that, once in a while. But when I'm at that racetrack, I got one thing on my mind. That's figuring out how to get down that racetrack all the time. So it's been a lot easier the last 10 years. I think people realize more about what I do and not get mad at me for not being able to stand back there and sign autographs. But yeah, I'm coming. We're coming. Whether I come with my car or Vic's car, we're coming to do some damage, and hope we can. It's like you say, it's so competitive out there anymore, and there's a lot of people spending a lot of money. They got a lot of fast cars, and you got a lot of crew chiefs out there now that's got a lot of knowledge because they've got to test a lot. So it's just a tough deal, So, but Chad can tell you, it's been with me 13 years, and stuff. He helps me PDR stuff, but I ain't a guy that gives up. I'm there till
that's for
I
sure.
decide to lay it down, and he knows right now. I mean, till I decide to say that's it. When I get that racetrack, I'm gonna try to win.
Absolutely, and you've done a ton of that. Special weekend back after your father, who you were extremely close with, had just passed away. We had the rain out makeup race for Dragpalooza at the Texas Drags in Baytown down at Houston Raceway Park, formerly Houston Raceway Park, one of the tracks that we've lost recently. And you won both events. And I just remember you telling me it just doesn't get any better than this. It was like the universe, the stars, the sun, everything aligned. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. And that weekend, I just want to thank you personally, because you and I have had a lot of great times together. We spent a lot of time together outside the racetrack, but as far as ADRL memories, that's in my top 2 or 3. For you to go out there with a heavy heart like that and perform the way that you did and win both Minutemen. I mean, to leave there, the only Pro Nitrous competitor ever to win 2 Minutemen in the same weekend, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a good deal. Like you say, when I lost my dad, that was tough, and then I lost my mom halfway through 16, and I was leading the points in NHRA from Gainesville. I won the race. I led the points the whole season that year, from start to finish. I led the points all year, and I didn't know what to do after she died there, about midway through the season. I almost give up. That was the closest time that I kind of come to a situation I was about ready to quit. But we got through it, and I won the championship that year, and my mom got to see me do that.
Amen.
Might have been from heaven, but she got to watch me.
Amen,
that's right,
brother.
That's right. You're beautiful. Speaking of beautiful females in your life, we hear your fur baby back there barking. And for those those that don't know Ricky as well as I'm fortunate enough to know, there she is. There's
that's my other fur baby.
That is the beautiful Nancy Smith. But bring that puppy into the screen with you. Where is she?
Where's that? Sadie, come here. Look at her here. Can you see her?
I can see her. Oh my goodness, she is cute as can be. How old is Sadie now, Tricky?
She'll be 14 in September.
Man, and the time that you spend with her, as much as I know you'd love to spend more time with your beautiful wife, Nancy, the reality is you spend more time with Sadie than anyone else on the planet.
Absolutely, she's with me 24 hours a day.
He's actually fears he's missed family vacations. Like, he is not going on the cruise because he's got nobody to keep Sadie. So they're not letting the dog go. Ricky's staying behind.
If Sadie doesn't go, I'm not going.
I told him at her life right now, she's in good shape. She may go any year or any time, kind of. And you got to watch her like a 3-year-old baby. I mean, she don't realize anything can hurt her. And I told him when they done this thing and back in the middle of the summer, I said, I'm not going if she's alive. and I think they thought I was kidding, but didn't go. My wife got a lady to go with her from church that she was friends with. She got her to take my place, and I just told my wife. We talked about it. I said, "Look, it's kind of like my kids. I had my kids, and I kept me and my wife stayed married, and I raised my kids, and I said I took this dog in, and I'm just that's one of my kids, and I'm not gonna let her get hurt because of I'm not around or I do something stupid. So I didn't go on the cruise this winter with Matthew and all of them, and if that dog
That is
can't
an
go,
animal lover.
I'm not going if the dog can't go.
Amen.
Yeah, I love that among the many other things. So, Tricky, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I know Dr. Fears has something he wants to ask you, but before I let you out, something has just been eating at me for a couple of weeks. I heard it on another podcast. People are comparing guys that have been racing, and I just want to know what your take on it is. They've been racing a couple, 3 years. They've won some races, maybe a championship. And I heard someone compare them to you. I'm not going to say the name. I don't need to get a bunch of shit stirred up. I'll let you take care of that. But Ricky is always uncensored, and you get what you get, whether it's the highest end of the emotions, and whether you get upset or whether you're very passionate. And that's one of the things I've always loved about you, even before I knew you, when I was just a fan, and I'm still a fan all these years later. That's got to get under your skin a little bit, no?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, the problem is when I don't know if it'd be a racer or a fan bragging about another racer, okay?
Right.
But Kenny, I mean, here's the deal. The way I look at it, if you're going to compare an apple to an apple, compare them to an apple. If you're going to compare an orange to an orange, you compare the orange to an orange, not an apple to an orange, okay? And this is the way I look at it, and if they don't see it that way, it's just tough. But when you're going to compare yourself to me, then you got to do everything I do. And I do not have a job to support my deal, okay? I don't have a business to support my deal. Every penny that I can rake and scrape since I started doing this for a living has had to come from a sponsor. Okay, well, the sponsor's not going to just jump on Ricky Smith's car because he likes Ricky Smith. You got to perform. Okay, you got to be winning, and you got to win races. You can't win races all the time, but you got to be a guy that when you roll in the gate, everybody says, "Oh hell, here he comes again," because they know that I'm capable of winning. Now, whether you win or not is one thing, but I usually have a car that's capable of winning, and when you compare yourself to me like that, like I say, when you got almost an unlimited budget and you got a business that'll support what you want to do, or you got a sugar daddy that'll support what you do, you're not comparing yourself to me. When you compare yourself to me, every time you put food on that table has to come from what that car brings in or something. When you buy, whatever, I paid my house off back when in '90, and my wife couldn't believe I paid. That was one thing I wanted to do was get my house paid off, because I knew if racing went away, I'd only have to work so hard. I didn't have to have a new car every year, but I had to have a house to live in. I had to raise my kids. So I paid that house off back in 90 or 91. I'm very proud of that, okay? From racing, not from anybody else, from racing. So if you're going to compare yourself to me, because you're going to tune them cars different, you're going to run them different, when you have to know that you only got so much money to work with from a sponsor. And you're going to drive it different when you're a tuner. You got to tune it. When somebody wants to compare themselves to me, oh, I can drive as good as he can. I can cut a light good as he. Well, let me tell you something. I've won a lot of races and a lot of championships not on cutting lights. I've won a lot doing it back in the day, but I've also won a lot by not doing it because I tuned my car to run fast enough to beat somebody if they beat me off the line. So there's so much comes into doing what I do, okay, that you can't There's nobody. I don't care who it is. You know, right now, Todd Tetterow is probably the next thing on, but Todd won't race that long. He's not going to race as long as I have for a living. So so I don't see him doing it this long. There's nobody out there right now coming in longer than what I call the professional ranks, which I've run most of my career. Okay. There's nobody going to race that long and survive as long as I have doing it for a living while I'm alive. Let's put it that way. If I live 20 more years, so let's say 20 more years, there's nobody can do it. So right now,
Amen.
I'm not bragging, but put the facts on the table. There's nobody can compare themselves to do what I do and race that car and win and be competitive and do it for a living. They're just not there. It's not gonna happen unless I'll probably live to be 100 or maybe somebody can, but it ain't gonna happen.
I doubt it'll even happen then. I mean,
That's
you've
the
been
way I
doing it,
look
as you
at it.
said.
When somebody starts comparing themselves to me, then compare the apple to the apple. Don't compare
Right.
the apple to the orange, because there's more to it than just cutting a light. There's more to it. There's a lot
Amen.
of times I get these cars down the racetrack when I should have shut off, but I won the round because I was managed enough to get the car down the track. So, you know, there's just more to cutting the light. There's just more to being out here when you compare yourself to me. I drive my own truck. I dump my own shitter. You know, I clean all that. You know, I mean, Chad has been a tremendous help to me, and I got a lot of confidence when I got Chad around me because he's been with me 13 years. He knows what I'm going to do, and I know what he's going to do. We don't have to talk at all day long. So that brings a lot of confidence to me when I got him around me. Russ, not saying somebody else can't do it eventually, but when we've got 13 years together, it's just a lot of confidence between each other that we know what we're doing and we don't have to talk about it. So, yeah, that comparison thing is people compare all they want to, but all I ask them to do is put the apple to apple,
Yeah.
not the apple and orange together.
And Chad
Amen.
Hester's been with you, won a lot of races, won a lot of championships, and it's amazing that you've been able to do it for 41 years, making a living in drag racing, and not just making a living in drag racing. That's how you put it so well the other day when we talked before the interview. You fed your family, you've kept food on the table. None of your kids ever went without. My hat's off to you, my friend. You're anybody ever wants to get on here and argue who the Go-To Door Slammer Racing is, I've got all night long. So I'll take
Amen.
Tricky Ricky against the field.
And don't think I hadn't paid every bit of my wife has worked for 48 years in the hospital, so she's paid bills too.
Sure.
But she's never paid in. I've never asked her one dime to pay something on a race car. I've foot my own bill. I've made my own deal with the race car and been able to bring the money in to do that, you know. But she makes good money and she pays bills around the house and, you know, helps put food on the table too. But it's at times it's been tough, but you know, it's been an awesome deal. I mean, would I change anything? My wife asked me this a year or two ago. I don't know. Nothing. I wouldn't change nothing. I ain't been perfect by no means, but I've lived a life and I've done what I wanted to do, and I still got her by my side. And that's all I need.
Amen. Jinx. Well, Tricky Ricky, hey man, first Dr. Fierce here. I want to say it's a pleasure to meet you and be talking to you right now, man. I've heard seen and heard a tremendous amount about you, and kind of starstruck at the moment. So I'm going to get through this as good as I can. So we do a segment here called In the Groove, and you know, being a musician myself, I'm a guitar player and love music my whole life. I think went to a Led Zeppelin concert when my mom was 8 months old, 8 months pregnant with me. So I got the tunes in my brain from the get-go. But so my whole life revolves around music in general. Gets me up, gets me through. And the question is, when you're getting out there and you're getting prepped, say you're at your with your crew at your truck, or you're in your car, you're getting ready to make a lap. What songs are you listening to? What music are you listening to whenever you're getting pumped up for a good run?
I'm a country music man. Have
Amen.
always been. You know, I've always been just a redneck country boy. So when I started kind of getting into racing pretty hard, with the Maverick that I won all those dominated with and championships. And then the first year or two I run Pro Stock, Keith Fowler owned those cars, and he was a promoter for country music. He booked the Coliseums for Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty and people like that back in the day. So
Nice.
I went to those shows with him sometimes on weekends. I programs.
Right.
I walk through those Coliseums and sell programs. I make me a little extra money doing that,
Oh, nice.
It's the way I done it. But I walked through those Coliseums selling programs back in the day, and Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn absolutely was my favorite.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah, I'm a country music fan at heart myself. Actually, my grandfather was George Jones' manager for quite a few years before he kind of went off the rails, and couldn't keep him out of jail.
It's funny you say that, because George, and just in the little clique I was around, everybody loved him, but his nickname was No Show George.
Oh, that was the issue. He it was a struggle apparently for years and years, and I don't know, threw his hands up. But I appreciate that. I appreciate doing that segment with me, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you a lot.
All right, Tricky Ricky. Well, listen, continued success. Keep kicking ass and taking names. We had a huge party over at my place, and everybody was there, and we watched the flow so much, and it was incredible to watch. And before I let you get out of here, one last question. I know you and Miss Nancy are getting ready to go have a nice meal together. We've had Kevin Kinsley, who races Top Fuel. Him and the Darter boys and everybody with the War Wagon have taken Clayton Poole's old Pro Extreme Corvette, and they put solid suspension in it, and they've got a Top Fuel motor in it, very similar to what Scott Palmer's been doing with Studezilla. From a technical standpoint, people have been driving me crazy for the last week. If you let that thing run, he's going to run away with the field, this, that, and the other. So I called and pulled our racers, our Pro Extreme guys. I said, listen, he's got solid suspension. In Pro Extreme, there are a very limited number outside of safety. There are a very limited number of things that we say, hey, listen, there's no minimum weight, but you do have to have working doors. Your wheelbase has to be within reason. The car has to be replicable of the car that it's representing, not build something from, Back to the Future and then call it a Corvette. Suspension versus not suspension. I mean, are these guys, from a technical standpoint, is there a big advantage if they don't have suspension? Is that a better way to get that 10 or 11,000 horsepower to work in a door slammer? Because most of the feedback I got said the quickest that thing will ever go is 360s, 370s. So it's not even a player. We're not worried about it.
All right. I don't know. I don't want to say something I don't know nothing about, so I can't say, Kenny, on that. That would be up to the Pro Extreme guys what they think,
Is there an advantage to having, in other words, with your car, if you were allowed to run without suspension, just, solid chassis like they do in the Nitro ranks, would there be an advantage to doing that? I guess is a better way to phrase the question.
Yeah. And again, that's something I've worked on damn near everything I hear from not funny cars, but blower cars to turbo cars to nitrous cars, but all of them had springs and four links on them. So I don't know one thing about a non-suspension car. So I don't want to answer something that I don't know nothing about,
Yeah.
No, and I certainly respect that. It's I can't wait to have a couple of these guys on. And here's the deal: in Pro Extreme, unlike the other categories, in Pro Extreme, if he does come out there and run 330s and kick their ass, I guess they're going to have to go get him a car with no suspension and a Top Fuel motor. Is all I can tell them.
All right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, Tricky. Well, listen, enjoy your dinner. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and taking the time away from your wife. You guys have a great rest of your evening. Thank you, buddy. You've been my hero since before I've known you. I've had the pleasure of being able to call you a client and, much more importantly, a friend for over 20 years. And during that entire time, you've never stopped being my hero, and I love you, buddy.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the racing nation out here, because that's what keeps me going right now is the fun and the fans that like to see what I do.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll let him get out of here. Go eat some supper, Tricky Ricky. Miss Nancy, keep him away from that second helping. He's got a race coming up.
Yes, sir.
11-time world champion Tricky Ricky Smith joining us here on Adrenaline, the podcast presented by Fatheads Eyewear. Appreciate having Ricky on and having him change out. I knew he was going to say something country music, so I was that was cool. He was actually sponsored by the Oak Ridge Boys at one point, so he's done it all, man. He's done it all, and I still, sitting here all these years later, I'm still starstruck. It never goes away. From riding my bike to the Magic Market in St. Charles Hills, riding up to the St. Andrews Magic Market back in the day, and getting the old Super Stock and Drag Illustrated when Jeff Burke was the editor. And it wasn't like, we didn't have these things. Everything wasn't instant. You would get coverage. The magazine would be printed in the coverage of, let's say, the Gator Nationals that happened in March. You wouldn't even get that. You wouldn't even know who won unless you knew somebody or talked to somebody until June,
right,
when that magazine hit the stands. And then for a while, they were on ABC Wide World of Sports, and later ESPN and now Fox. But I got to tell you, I still get goosebumps when I talk to Tricky Ricky Smith, and I hope that never goes away.
Tricky Ricky, the GOAT.
Tricky Ricky is the GOAT. So
what a nice dude, man. Cool cat. For real.
He is absolutely awesome. There's no doubt about it. And want to mention producer Adam reminds us you can chat. I know this is a new format, and we all kind of got to get familiar with it here on YouTube, but the chat is open. So you're welcome to chat and ask questions just like we did on Facebook. I know, just getting kind of acclimated with it. So again, and appreciate that. And you're going to have to forgive me because my fat heads are glaring a little bit. Oh, that's the bad bird himself.
Bad bird.
What's up,
Bad
buddy?
bird.
What is up? So Ricky Smith. I mean, you turn the mic over to him, and man, he can tell stories. And I wish we had 2.5, 3. It would never be enough.
He's the only guy I've ever talked to that has fought a monkey intentionally.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone that's ever fought a monkey unintentionally.
Thank you for answering my next question.
Yes, yeah. I already knew maybe you were going to go that way. But I don't know anybody that's fought a monkey. I've seen people fight kangaroos.
Well, ironically, and it was a very similar situation in Sarasota, Florida, which is, if you don't know, I bet you didn't know. Podcast on Tuesday nights.
Plug
you and producer Adam. The Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus was formed in Sarasota, Florida. That's where my dad lived for decades. We spent summers there. I lived there for quite a while, spent just endless amounts of time. We'll eventually retire there.
Is that why those dudes were all tan with long flowing hair?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Totally Floridaed out.
So, and as a matter of fact, Sarasota High School, where I went my freshman year before coming back here to go to St. Charles West, Sarasota High School actually you could take a circus class, real stuff. Like you could take a class in high school and learn to fly the trapeze or juggle or whatever. Like there were some people, what's your next class? I'm like, marine biology. They're like, all right, I'm off to circus. I'm like, wait, what?
To circus.
Yeah. So that same, I don't know that it was the same monkey or the same type of truck or whatever, but my father, the late Les Nowling, who will be having the Les Nowling Memorial Bracket Challenge at Drag Stock September 29th and 30th at Rockingham Dragway, The Rock. Houston Neese, the Frog, the legendary Frog, who just kicked their ass down in Union County a couple weeks ago in South Carolina last weekend, is the first entry for Drag Stock. He wanted to be the first entry for the Les Nowling Memorial Bracket Challenge.
Well, there it was.
Because him and Les, my pops were extremely close.
Pretty tight.
Frog, a.k.a. Houston Neese, a.k.a. the legend of bottom bulb drag racing, kicked some ass and took some names down there. So my pops got in that truck.
And he fought a monkey too?
Oh, beat the brakes off of him, bro.
Wait. The monkey beat the brakes off your old man? Or?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, absolutely. So this was an orangutan.
Now you can't fight an orangutan.
Listen,
man,
you think after watching,
like rip your arm.
Listen, after watching, right? That's what I'm thinking. I'm scared to death, even as a 10 or 11-year-old kid, whatever I was. But I had also seen my dad he loved to do 3 things in life. One was racing, and the other 2 began with the letter F. Fighting was one of them.
Fighting and farting.
Coming at you like a spider
Potentially
monkey.
18 boys and 3 girls. I'll let you figure out what the other one what his other hobby was. Didn't watch a lot of TV, my pops. So yeah, Pops climbs in the back of the monkey truck, as it was called. It was a refurbished, like, old U-Haul style, rider style truck that they had taken the box off of and put a cage on the back, and they threw some hay down, and this orangutan would get in there, and people would come by. And the deal is the promoter had a bucket, and then there was a bucket for the fighter. So people throw some money at the promoter, the guy with the monkey truck, and then people would throw money in that other pile. Well, once that thing started overflowing, my pops is like, you know what? I'm in. I'm going to do it. He jumps in there. They're sizing each other up. That thing jumped up on my old man with its feet, which are essentially hands.
Yeah. Posable thumbs.
Locked into his hips. And I mean, it was like something out of a cartoon skit. Just beat the brakes off of him. So to the point that his eyes are swollen shut, his nose is bleeding, he's all. But my old man, being as tough as nails, toughest son of a bitch I've ever known in my life, and anybody that knew my old man knew that he was a bad dude. Pops is like, no, I went back in there. And the promoter's like, no, you've had enough. You've had enough. And there's no money in the bucket. And my old man takes the wad that he already had from the first ass whooping, throws it back at the promoter, and says, I went back in there. So he gets back in there, and I'm just like, I'm going to watch my dad die. And I was honest. I can vividly remember my brother Kevin and I, we were scared to death because our old man's about to get beat. Like, we had seen Any Which Way You Can, or Every Which Way But Loose. Clint Eastwood movie, Right Turn, Clyde.
Right Turn, Clyde.
Yeah. Every Which Way But Loose, and Any Which Way You Can. I wanted to get those right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
My all-time favorite.
Yes,
so I wanted to get those right. But at any rate, this Clyde like orangutan. So the old man gets back in there, and he's like, fighting to my old man. There's no such thing as fighting dirty, because he was never in. That's the only time he ever fought, like, actually in a cage. He had done a few tough man contests and things, but he was actually in a cage. Okay. Usually fighting's on the street or in the parking lot or wherever it would pop up at a racetrack. The old man jumps back in there, and he gives that orangutan a pretty good shot to the nuts. The orangutan turns around as if to say, like Roberto Duran, no mas, the orangutan. He's looking at the old man. So I guess my pops was 1 for 1 against the orangutan. In the rematch, he gave him a good shot to the nuts, and the orangutan
he gave up.
The promoter, yeah. And I'm not sure he didn't. The promoter was so pissed at my dad. He's like, that was so dirty and that was so cheap. And he didn't kick him. He gave him, when that thing went to jump up, the old man just punched him right in the guts. That's what we call it in the Nowling family.
That's hilarious, actually.
And the monkey, he tapped out. He said, no, I don't want any more. So there was
no
never
more nut taps.
There was never that match to decide who was the best. The old man won one, but the one he lost, it took weeks for him to heal. I think
no way in hell I'd get in a ring with an orangutan.
I wouldn't get in the ring.
I mean, it would literally. Wasn't it the lady
animal?
Hey, wait, wasn't there some lady in Florida that had an orangutan and ended up ripping her face off?
I don't know. I saw an Oprah Winfrey show, but she had one of those little, like the little monkeys. Those are vicious. Those little monkeys will, like, tear you apart and eat your face. So I don't know. You'd have to go to Google for that. So we've gone off the rails a little bit. And,
that's all right.
It's good. Yeah. So Tricky Ricky Smith, Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn.
I love it.
What that tells me is it tells me that you don't need much like us. I was always the Enter Sandman Metallica guy back in the day. That's what really got me amped up.
Yeah.
You talk about Slayer and some of the other ones. I've asked your question to a lot of people about what fires them up since you started doing the In the Groove segment. And, you get Five Finger Death Punch. And usually it's that genre of music, they
just
really
kind of aggressive, high tempo.
A lot of Eminem songs can do that. Eye of the Tiger, obviously, back in the day and whatnot. I've had a lot of people tell me that country music and it so maybe it's not just the energy in the music, it's what the message in the music's, how it speaks to you, and because you wouldn't think Conway Twitty, I mean, hello darling, like that's getting Ricky Smith ready to go out and knock the tree over and win a world championship. But
I mean, maybe it just gets him in his feels and he's feeling good and he's positive and he's upbeat, motivated, ready to kick some ass.
And true to his word, you walk into Tricky Ricky Smith and the music's playing, you're not going to hear anything but country music. And usually it's old country music like the Conways and
Oh, that's
Loretta
great,
Lynn's
man.
and the Statler Brothers and the Oak Ridge Boys, etc.
Love it. Love it. Check.
Our 20th anniversary tour is next year. 6 races, 8 races, 10 races. We haven't decided yet. Sponsorship will determine that.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the 20th anniversary tour, there is also this important thing coming up, an election next year. So just get out and vote. I don't care who you vote for. We're not going political here, but there was a little bit of politics involved in Ricky Smith being on the show. When I put out the reel that Jessica with Driven Marketing Group put together, and she used the Jason Aldean song that is jumped up the charts, try that in a small town.
Oh.
And it got me to thinking, as someone that grew up in a small town, because Moscow Mills, Missouri, I mean, if you blink, you miss it, right?
Yeah, it's small for
yeah.
sure.
So, and then moving from there to St. Charles, back when St. Charles was a relatively small town, comparatively speaking, So my take on it, I was curious what your take was from a music standpoint. Put the politics aside for a minute and what you feel about the video or this, that, or the other. Although I did hear that CMT has now decided to put it.
I saw
back
that
on.
as well. Yeah.
It's a little bit too late.
Yeah. About a week later.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe call
damage is done.
Call the execs at Bud Light and ask them.
I think that's what they're doing. They're kind of, taking the lead by them going, maybe we should do something as soon as possible.
Yeah. I think the damage is done. But we talk about cancel culture and these different things.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you, as a musician, listening to the words and listening to the lyrics, obviously there's some polarizing things in there, but why do you think when things like that come up, Dr. Fears, that it divides people? So, I mean, you're either on one side of that thing or the other. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground. And I was kind of caught up in that after that video went up last night. A lot of people, some racers, some people who are my friends, who will continue to be my friends, sent me some nasty grams like you couldn't have picked another song.
I think it's what we call cognitive dissonance. I think there's a lot of people.
Can you say that for the less intelligent in the room like me?
Yeah, I
please?
think there's a lot of people groomed by social media, and they're a bunch of sheep, and they jump on bandwagons, and they don't really they're acting off of what everybody else, not everybody else, but their clique is saying, and they're not taking the time to really understand what they're talking about. And maybe they just don't understand what it's like to live in a small town. I mean, small towns are tight. It's usually a lot of family, friends, and you can't go into a small town raising hell and think that there's not going to be any repercussions. I mean, it's generations. People have sacrificed everything for the businesses, and they paid taxes in the schools, and and you can't just go in looting and pillaging and tearing shit up and thinking that it's cool because.
And is there a real epidemic of this happening to where, like the old rebel without a cause type gangs going into towns taking over?
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't really heard of a small town being under attack.
No, I don't see it happening. And producer Adam, that's
But
a
I
great
think that's
valid
the point.
point. And I appreciate
That's the
Bad
point,
Bird also
right?
chiming in. Imagine that's something I read on the internet was incorrect. So the CMT thing, I guess that's fake news, as they say.
Oh, fake news. There we go.
Really
We've been
happen.
indoctrinated with
Yeah,
the fake
and
news.
listen, absolutely. I actually got that from someone that I trusted to have vetted the source before they told me. But irregardless, the point is to me that we live in the United States of America. The blanket of freedom we live under have been provided by the men and women of our armed services who have, in some cases, given their lives for this country and are resting at cemeteries all over this country, including Arlington National Cemetery, where I was able to humbly go and look out across all those. And you yourself as a veteran, as I thank you every day for defending our freedom. I think to me, it just comes down to one thing. With the wrong people. you come into, you do all this stuff. It may be
fights,
okay
man.
in the
There's
city,
always
but
somebody that's going to shut
I'm
your
just
ass
saying,
down. I mean, that's
you
the bottom
roll,
line.
You roll into Lincoln County, Missouri, and try to loot something. I just encourage you not to, as
Yeah.
Jason says in the song. So, and Jason and I have a little bit of history, which is why I also wanted to bring it up. Jason, of course, performed way back in 2006.
Those
Your
are,
mom,
those
Bonnie.
are pleasant photos to look at. Actually, that was really cool.
Yeah.
You guys
So
hanging out. Yep.
your mom Bonnie and stepdad Danny,
Yep.
they were actually at that event, bought tickets to the ADRL event,
Mhm.
came to the Jason Aldean concert. Who would have known he was going to blow up as big as he is? But I'm glad he did because he's a good dude, man.
Yeah,
Good dude.
but back to what we're talking about with the song is that I really don't understand what the hell the issue is with
It's
that video.
a song.
It's a
Who
song,
cares?
man, you know.
It's the same crap as when back in the day, Ice-T put out Cop Killer and all. You know, it's a song. It's PR. If you're reading more into it than it's a song, then maybe you need to look in the mirror.
I think that's a perfect way to drop the mic.
There's certainly a whole lot of shit out there 500 times worse.
There's so many more
mainstream.
bigger problems than Jason Aldean putting out a song. Don't listen to it if you don't like it. That's always been the rest.
Thank you. Change the channel, as they say. So
Right.
this segment presented by Wes's Collision Center. Wow, wow, Wes, getting ready to take delivery from Larry Jeffers Race Cars of the Purple Heart.
Oh yeah, the Purple Heart.
Yeah. Can't wait. It's going to be badass. He'll be on in the coming weeks. Next week, our guest, the preacher, Paul Gibbs, who believes that with his tuner, John Salemi, they can come to Rockingham with a quote unquote legal tune up and show, and I quote, those boys from Texas who they are. So I'll be excited to hear from the preacher, Paul Gibbs, next week, driver of a badass Larry Jeffers Race Cars Barracuda. So with John Salemi tuning it, and listen, I'm just
one of my
telling
favorites.
you, man. I'm just telling you. Would Wild Wild West chime in there? Yes. I wish I could read that. I'm just saying yes and nodding like I do at my wife.
He said he loved your dad. Wild Les.
Wild Les. Yes, he was a hell of a guy. So Slim Tiller, right up top there, the mud racing, formerly sponsored by the ADRL. He always sported the ADRL when he was down running. He had the coolest mud truck. Slim, if you could type in there, maybe you already did. I'm trying to remember the name of your mud truck, and I can't believe I'm forgetting it. He's got a Spuds McKenzie type dog. What are those little?
Oh, a terrier,
like a pit terrier.
Yeah,
terrier,
some type
whatever
of terrier.
they are.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Wild Ride 2, that's what it was. And I'll share some pictures with you after we go off. Slim Tiller, always been a big ADRL fan. He and I met at an NHRA Pro Mod race in the lobby in Bristol, Tennessee of the Hampton Inn 22 years ago.
Bull Terrier.
He's been Bull Terrier. There you go.
There it is.
He's been to more ADRL races around the country than I venture to say anybody, and he'll be in Rockingham, no doubt about it, with his whole crew. So looking forward to that. September 29th and 30th at the Rock Drag Stock. 20 years later, what's it going to be like? I'll tell you what it's going to be like.
Amazing.
It's going to be insanity.
Or as the kids say these days, it's going to be a banger.
Yes, it is. And next week, we will start unveiling the pre-entry lists. They're already starting to pile up, buddy. Just telling you. Just wait and see. I've got a list on my computer.
I am ready for the
right
chaos.
behind us.
Or am I?
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, listen, I'm just telling you. It's
whatever happens, happens.
It's going to be a wild time. You don't want to miss it. September 29th and 30th, Rockingham Dragway, the Rock Drag Stock, 20 years later. Looking forward to that. YouTube, thanks for having us.
Thanks, YouTube.
Yeah, we're glad to be on here. Make sure you let everybody know if you could. Like, subscribe, share. We got more acclimated at the end. The chat started to fill up a little bit. We had a good audience tonight. Don't forget, you can go back and watch us anytime. Just go to YouTube and subscribe to @ADRL Tour. That's the @ ADRL Tour. Click the subscribe button. We'll notify you anytime we go live, including next Thursday night when we have special guest Paul, the Preacher Gibbs, Pro Extreme driver, and he's going to let us know why he thinks bringing a quote-unquote legal combination, a knife to a proverbial gunfight, is the way to go when John Salemi's the one sharpening the blade on the knife. So with that, we will see you next Wednesday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Adrenaline, the podcast, presented by Fatheads Eyewear, fueled by Chuck-a-Burger Restaurant. Thank our friends at Wes's Collision Center, and of course, Selena Mikos and everybody at Better Office Furniture and betterofficefurniture.com. Dr. Fierce, love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.
God bless.